Hello and welcome to the Growing Healthy Families podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Scott Haggerty. On this show, I interview the world's top health experts so that you can know with certainty what it takes to give your family a life of epic health and wellness.
As parents, we don't want to see our kids struggle. I knew that he had the potential. I knew that something needed to be done.
It was hard. We would get frustrated. We didn't know how to deal with it. I was more emotional about it.
Sure that, we're here. Amen to that, brother. Amen to that. And so in this video today, what we really want to focus on is making sure that your child has amazing study habits. So what we're going to talk about here is some different strategies that you can use with your child to make sure that, number one, they're not pushing into the fatigue zone, making sure they're maximizing and economizing their energy. That's a really important topic when we start talking about how kids study. So we're going to dig deep here. I'm going to go and load up a presentation here in just a moment, but we're going to talk about all the things that your kids know to make sure that their study time is the most productive, so that they're not pushing themselves into the ground. They know how to go and budget their time effectively and making sure that their study time is the maximum level of productivity. So let's go ahead and get started. So as we go through and we talk about this today, right, it's all about just maximizing the study time because, we don't want to go and push a child to a point where they're in total fatigue. So it's important to recognize little things that we may not know. One of our goals with these presentations is to help moms and dads and kids to get rid of blind spots. Because the more that we know, the more that we can impact their health for the positive, but also make sure that this school year is a year that has minimal levels of stress, maximum levels of success. So as we talk about this, first and foremost, you want to have a game plan. So when we talk about planning, right, we talk about how long will you plan on each subject and what study method will you use. So no game plan can equal disorganization and ineffective study time. So we don't want to be put into a position where we're stressed. And so stress makes it more difficult for our brain to be able to go and process the things that we're putting in. So it's important that if there's a planner, right, and I think it's great for kids to start using planners. And I know my little girl, she's in second grade and they've got her a planner so that she's able to start organizing her homework and giving her the strategies necessary so that she can organize how, when, and how much she's going to study. So let's talk about some basic things that are helpful for every kid to know. So first, game plan equals laser focus on success. So we know certain things are really critical for maximizing the way that a child studies. So certain kids are visual learners, some kids are audio learners. So we find that in the vast majority of people, it's really important that we take care of certain things with visual. And so we find that in all the research studies that have been done, note-taking has a massive impact on the way that we learn. It also helps to go and summarize and rewrite by doing things like whiteboards and then reinforcing with flashcards. So these are all great strategies that can be used and can really help a child to get a much deeper grasp and much better recall because now you've got application and frequency. Some kids tend to really benefit from re-listening to lectures. And sometimes if they listen to the lecture, practicing working on audio recall, and then even writing out their notes again while they're listening to the lecture, this can help them to tremendously improve retention. And it's a great way then for them to be able to verbalize and summarize so they can ensure their understanding. So one of the big things we talk about too is not studying too long. One of the mistakes that many of us make, right? I'm guilty. I've made these mistakes because I wish I would have known these things. Brain is like a muscle. You can't fatigue it. Too much straight study time and the brain will get fatigued. So it's really important that we set timers so that we take study breaks every 30 minutes. It is a tremendously important strategy because the longer that we go, the more fatigue the brain experiences, the more difficult time it's going to have with recall. So always set the timers, always make sure we take these breaks, make an alarm go off. Even if it's a 5-minute break, 5 minutes is a tremendous recharge for the brain because it just needs to switch gears. It needs to stop the straight study cycle, give it time to process. It'll also help their brain with retention because we typically only will remember the first and last 10% the best. And then we want to try and give the brain time to go and process and recall the other stuff. And then we come back and review and then dig deeper into new material. So we also find that it's incredibly beneficial to write out the notes by hand. It's proven time and time again to be better for learning than typing out the notes hands down. This is a link to an article that was published recently in Scientific American that literally dives into studies on making sure that we learn effectively. And this was done from college age, high school age youth they found that when a child or an adult takes notes on a laptop, they have much lower retention than writing it out by notes. So a couple of things that we talk about when we're taking notes. They require different cognitive processes, and this is important to keep in mind. It requires better listening skills, being able to quickly digest and summarize the lectures because you have to write it out, because there's no way that you can write as fast as you can possibly type. So I can tell you this from past experience, it definitely makes an enormous difference when you're having to take in large quantities of information, when you can summarize the information because you've written it down. So it also really makes a child have to go and digest the information so that they make sure they can comprehend it. And then it's easier when they've written it down for retention later on. One great strategy that has been proven to be extremely successful as a follow-up is do summaries. So if a child outlines their notes, doing a summary helps them to remember the broader concepts. And so thinking of your brain kind of like a file, right? When a child has to go and do a test, one of the great things that they can do is if they have an outline, it makes recall of details much easier. So by going through and doing a summary, this gives them places where they have reference points. So when they're being tested on a topic, they have to have recall. If they can dig in and remember broader points and then dig deeper into the details, it'll dramatically improve their ability to go and recall those things as they get deeper and deeper into more complex material. It's really important that we have a consistent study schedule. The consistency of the schedule is really important because the more that we are on a routine, the more that we can, number one, manage fatigue. We can also make sure that our study time is effective and efficient, because if we block it, we plan for it, it allows us to have a really consistent schedule which minimizes stress. So small chunks, no more than 30 minutes. And this has been shown in testing to have significant impact on the ability to go and have a higher recall when tests are being taken. Never study when fatigued. It takes much longer to study, and you remember much less. One of the things that I talked about in one of my past videos is the role of the parasympathetic rest and digest system and its ability to go and feed into the part of the brain that regulates memory, focus, organization, retention of details, things like that, called prefrontal cortex. That cortex has to be active. So when we get to a point where we're fatigued, our body taps into our stress called sympathetic system. The more that system kicks on, the more that it creates background noise to memory processing. So our retention goes down, we are less able to organize our thoughts and details, and it becomes much, much, much less productive. So never study when fatigued. The other thing is, especially with younger kids, create a reward system. Make sure that if they have a study period, give them some playtime. Maybe let them watch a TV show, play a game with them. Something that they enjoy as a reward for sticking to their study schedule on a regular basis. So balance is the key. It's really important that we allow kids to switch mental gears. You don't want a child to be too locked in where they don't have other things that help them to maintain balance between school and study. Having hobbies, having social life, playing sports, all of these things are critical because it's important that we do well in school, but it's important that our brain is not locked so into that we don't have other interests and hobbies. So just making sure that we keep our kids involved in activities that allow them to take their brain away from their school and then do fun things so that they've got the ability to go and take the stress of school, compartmentalize it, and then move on to other parts of their life. So when we get into the next video, we're going to talk about study posture. And this is a really, really important one because we talk about study posture because we really want to protect them. And so the study postures that they're going to be in, right? You've got many years of school. So from, potentially as young as preschool all the way up through high school, college, potentially grad school. Many, many, many years that a child's spine is going to be under the strain of school. So it's important that we teach them proper study habits, proper study postures, because it can prevent a whole host of things, from headaches and back pain to a bunch of other things that we'll dig into in that video. So please let us know what we can do. We make these videos for you, so let us know what we can do to help to serve your family better. All right, guys. So this is Dr. Scott. I am signing out. God bless.
Thank you for listening to the Growing Healthy Families podcast, the world's #1 source for health education. Make sure to go to iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts and give us a review. Make sure to follow us on social media at the links listed in the show notes, and let us know what area of health you are struggling with so we can get you and your family on the road to epic health.